In our last lecture we have derived two methods for the solution of the system of linear algebraic equations Ax is equal to b. We have mentioned that the Gauss-Seidel method is at least 2 times more faster than the Gauss-Jacobi method. However, in practical applications, when you have thousands or lakhs of equations, even the convergence of Gauss-Seidel is not sufficient, because it would take too much of time. Therefore, we need to develop or need to have some methods which work faster than the Gauss-Seidel method. In this direction, we have what is known as relaxation methods. So, we will discuss what is known as the relaxation methods. This is a generalization of the Gauss-Seidel method. Originally, the method was discovered when the matrix has special properties, and that is the matrix A has properties, one that is symmetric, and two it is has what is known as property A. It is called what is known as has property A. I will define what is property A. What is property A is, given the coefficient matrix A, we must be able to use interchanges of rows and interchange of columns, that is applying a permutation matrix similarity transformation P A P transpose similarity transformation, such that it can be partitioned as these two corners top and bottom is diagonal matrices and remaining are square matrices, or they are any other matrices which is not diagonal. So, what we mean by property of A, let us here just define what is property A. So, a matrix, let us use another name, a matrix B has property A if there exists a permutation matrix, P such that P B P transpose can be partitioned as A11, A12, A21, A22, where A11, A22 are diagonal matrices. These are diagonal matrices or diagonal matrices. What this really implies is, we have pre multiplied by P, post multiplied by P transpose. Therefore, this gives you interchanges of rows and the corresponding interchanges of columns. That is, if you interchange column 2 and 5, this will give then it will interchange the rows 2 and 5. So, it is the corresponding interchanges of this. Then I must be able to bring this matrices A11, A22 as diagonal matrices and A12, A21 are any two matrices. Then the matrix is said to have property A. In fact, this was done because we will see that the method requires finding the optimal value of a relaxation parameter which gives the fastest convergence for the given method. So, that is why they needed this particular formulation to have the analysis of the methods. However, today one would not look for, now that so much of work has been done, they know where these relaxation values normally lie, in which range. Therefore, without going through whether the matrix has property A or not, even though it is symmetric, we use the relaxation methods. Now, let us define what is a relaxation method. We start from the Gauss-Seidel method. We write the Gauss-Seidel method as d plus L x k plus 1 minus u x k plus b. Now, let us take the second term L x k plus 1 to the right hand side. So, I will write d x k plus 1 is minus L x k plus 1 minus u x k plus b. Now, the solution of this system we shall call it as an intermediate value. So, let us call it as intermediate value. Let us give a new notation to it, let us call it as some x tilde k plus 1. Therefore, x tilde k plus 1 is minus d inverse L x k plus 1 minus d inverse u x k plus d inverse of b. Now, this intermediate value has really no meaning as it is. We shall use this intermediate value to construct the final solution, and hence I mean we will not specifically say that this is going to approximate our solution or anything here. Now, we shall use this intermediate value and the previous iterated value x k to build the final solution. So, let us call this as a final solution. Let us first take difference between the two values. The difference between the two values will be x tilde k plus 1 minus x k. Therefore, this will be the difference of the intermediate value, and this is the value at the previous iteration. I multiply this by a parameter omega. I will call this as a relaxation parameter, the value of which we shall determine later on using the property or the condition that this iteration should converge, and the analysis of the convergence would give us what will be the values of omega that should be used in order that the solution of the problem can be obtained. Now, this product we shall add to the previous iterate x k. This we shall say is our final solution x k plus 1. Now, we can view this as a correction using the parameter omega to the previous iterated value to get the current estimate. I can simplify the right hand side and write it as 1 minus omega into x k plus omega x tilde k plus 1. Now, I want to simplify this further, therefore, I shall substitute the expression for x tilde plus 1 from here into this particular equation. Therefore, I would get here 1 minus omega x k plus omega into minus d inverse L x k plus 1 minus d inverse u x k plus d inverse b. Before I simplify it further, I would like to pre-multiply this equation by d, so that I can remove this d inverse from here. Therefore, I would get d x k plus 1 is 1 minus omega d x k plus omega minus L x k plus 1 minus u x k plus b. I mean we have pre multiplied throughout by d, so that this will simply become minus L, this is minus u, and this is simply b. Now, this x k plus 1 belongs to the left hand side, because it is the current iterate, it belongs to the left hand side. So, let us bring it to the left hand side. Then we will have d plus omega L x k plus 1 is equal to 1 minus omega 1 plus omega 1 minus omega into d x k plus omega minus u x k plus b. Now, let us combine this x k term and this x k term. So, I will have 1 minus omega into d minus omega into u into x k plus omega into b. Now, the solution of this system is our x k plus 1. Therefore, let us invert this matrix and find x k plus 1. Therefore, x k plus 1 is minus d plus omega L inverse 1 minus omega into d minus omega u x k plus omega d plus omega L inverse of B. Now, this is our iteration method. Therefore, we shall write it as H x k plus some C, where this H is the iteration matrix given by this particular expression. Therefore, our iteration matrix H is equal to minus d plus omega L inverse. Now, there is no d plus minus sign here, there is a plus sign, d plus omega L inverse 1 minus omega of d minus omega of u. Now, the properties of this iteration matrix we shall study it later on. If the method is to converge, then the eigenvalues of this matrix have to be strictly less than 1 in magnitude. This we are going to prove in our later lectures. Therefore, what we would like to say now here is that the behavior of this iteration matrix will tell us whether the iteration is going to converge or it is not going to converge. However, for computational purposes, this particular expression is not useful for us, because it is going to take lot of computer time. Therefore, we would like to use the error format to derive it. Now, let us write the error format of this particular method. I add and subtract x k on the right hand side. Therefore, I can write x k plus 1 is equal to x k plus minus I d plus omega L inverse 1 minus omega into d minus omega into u x k plus omega d plus omega L inverse of B. Now, I take d plus omega L inverse outside. So, I get x k d plus omega L inverse into minus d plus omega L plus 1 minus omega into d minus omega u x k plus omega d plus omega L inverse of B. Now, let us simplify it further. I can take this x k to the left hand side and write this as x k plus 1 minus x k. Now, if you just look at this particular factor, there is minus d here and there is plus d here. So, minus d cancels with plus d. I have minus omega L minus omega d minus omega u. So, what I have here is d plus omega L inverse of minus of omega into A. This is d and d cancels, this is minus omega L minus omega d minus omega u. So, I have a minus omega common, therefore, d plus L plus u, that is A, x k plus omega d plus omega L inverse of B. Therefore, I can write this as d plus omega L inverse. I can take omega outside, this is B minus A x k. Therefore, in the notation that we have used for the Gauss-Seidel method, we call this as V k and this as R k residual vector. So, this is our R k, the residual vector. This is our residual vector and this is our error in the solution V k. So, this is our error in the solution. Therefore, I can write down the method as d plus omega L V k is equal to omega r k. So, this is our residual vector and this is multiplied by this omega, and this d plus omega L we have pre multiplied, and this is our x k. Now, you can see that this is in no way computationally expensive than Gauss Seidel, except that we have put a factor over here, one more multiplication we put here. Otherwise, when omega is equal to 1, this is same as Gauss Seidel, and hence we call this as generalization of Gauss Seidel method. Now, you can see when omega is equal to 1, we immediately get our Gauss Seidel method here. Is the Gauss Seidel method. Therefore, it is not computationally expensive compared to the Gauss Seidel method at all. Now, the omega is called the relaxation factor. Omega is called the relaxation factor. The analysis of the method requires that for convergence omega should lie between 0 and 2. So, we should have omega lies between 0 and 2 for convergence. If we use the value greater than 1, that is above the Gauss Seidel, 1 less than omega less than 2, it is called the over relaxation, and it is also called in literature successive over relaxation. And this is the one of the most famous and most popular methods. It is simply called SOR, successive over relaxation method. If I use the value between 0 and 1, it is called under relaxation, but it is very rarely used. So, this is called the under relaxation. Now, therefore, the success of the over relaxation procedure would depend on the value relaxation factor that is correctly determined. For the properties that I have mentioned earlier, symmetric and property A, it is possible for us to say what is the omega optimum value such that this has fastest convergence. It is not unusual to get at least 10 times faster than Gauss Seidel in many cases. In fact, if you can find the optimum relaxation factor very accurately, even getting 100 times faster than Gauss Seidel is not a surprising thing for the successive over relaxation. The successive over relaxation is therefore one of the most important methods for the solution of the linear algebraic equations. There are later on some modifications to this, further modifications to make it work better. However, even though the method was derived for the methods having property of A, later on it has been dropped. People have started using for irrespective of being property A, just for symmetric matrices you can use it. Today even you can try it for the non-symmetric matrices also a relaxation, because what really we are doing it here is we are taking a type of the error between the Gauss Seidel and this one, and then multiplying by suitable factor and adding to it. In a sense we are now improving upon the error in the solution, and therefore the method would work even for the other cases also. Now, before I have a discussion on the error analysis of this, let us take a simple example for the successive over relaxation. So, let us take an example on this. So, let us call it as find the solution of the system of equations. Find the solution of the system. Let me take a simple example. 2 minus 1 0 minus 1 2 minus 1 0 minus 1 2. x1 x2 x3 7 1 1. Using SOR method. Assume the initial approximation assume the initial approximation as, let us give the value as x1 is equal to 5.5, x2 is equal to 4.5, x3 is equal to 3.5. Using the value, we will give the value of omega here. Using the value, omega is 1.1716, perform 2 iterations. Now, here we are given the initial approximation, we have also given the omega value, and we need 2 iterations of this SOR method, and we shall see later on how we are going to obtain this value of omega. Now, let us use this error format of writing the system, that is our d plus omega L into Vk is equal to omega 1.176 Rk. So, d is the same, L is this part. So, I am multiplying by omega this part. So, I can write down 2 minus 1 0 omega into this minus 1.1716 2 0. I am multiplying this by omega, therefore 0 minus 1.1716 2. This is our d plus omega times L. This is our diagonal part, this is the part omega into lower triangular part, that is d plus omega L. Vk is 1.1716. Now, let us write down Rk and write Rk in the next step. Let us write down what is Rk in the next step. Now, the value of Rk is, that is the residual vector, is b minus Axk, that is b minus Axk. So, let us write down b minus Axk from here. B is this, entire A is this. So, this goes to the right hand side. So, I will have this as 7 minus 2 times x1 plus x2 at the previous iterate xk 1, then I am taking this to the right hand side. So, plus x1 of k 2 times x2 of k plus x3 of k. So, I have taken these 3 values to the right hand side, and the third component is 1, this is plus x2 of k 2 times x3 of k. Now, we are given the initial approximation as our vector x0 is given as 5.5, 4.5, 3.5. So, we are given this as our initial approximation. So, I can just substitute it in Rk, this is the value. So, I can substitute x1 is equal to 5.5, x2 is 4.5 and x3 is equal to 3.5. Then I would get R0. I will give you the value that it is obtained here. It is a very simple thing, 0.5 minus 0.5. So, I just multiplied this, this gives you minus 11 and this gives 4.5, this gives you 4.5, that is 11.5 minus 11, so 0.5. Similarly, I get the other values of R. When once the value of R is obtained, I substitute it in this particular step. So, the next step I would have here is 200 minus 1.171620, 0 minus 1 1.17 dash, and the last element is 2, V0 is equal to 1.1716 R0. R0 is let us put 1.1716 0.51 minus 0.5. Now this is a forward substitution method. So I can just find out the first component of this V1 as this divided by 2 and then use this value to get the value of V2, then I can get the value of V3. So by just forward substitution I can get the solution from this problem. If I do that, I would get V1 0 is half of that, 0.2929, V2 of 0 0.7574, V3 0 is minus 435. This is the solution of this system by just forward substitution. Now I generate my new value. The computed value will be equal to x1 of 1 is equal to V1 0 plus x1 of 0. So that is this is the increment. Therefore I will write this as the x1 0 plus V1 0, and x1 0 was given as 5.5 and I have this as 0.2929. So I will have 5.7929. Similarly, the second component x2 of 1 is V2 0 plus x2 0. Now the initial approximation was 4.5 plus 0.7574 and that gives you 5.2574. I have added these two to give 5.2574. And the third component is x3 1 is V3 0 plus x3 0, and this value was given as 3.5 minus 0.435, that is 3.060, yes, this is minus 4.5. Now when once I obtain this value, to go to the next iterate I need again this residual vector. So I go back and substitute this in the residual vector and to get the next solution for this one. So if I substitute that I get this particular value. So I get R1, that is, as I was saying, by substituting this in the value of the residual vector I get this as 0.6716 minus 6569 0.1274. Now I need to solve this system again. So I will again have to solve this system 200 minus 1.171620, 0 minus 1.1762, V1 is 1.1716 into R1. So I could now write this as 0.6716 minus 0.6569, 0.1274. Now we have to solve this equation again by forward substitution, and I get the solution of this as V1 1, that is at this stage it is V1 1 0.3934, I get V2 is minus 0.1543, V3 is minus 0.0158. That is from the just computation of this value again by forward substitution. Now I will update my value of x, that is x1 of 2 is equal to V1 of 1 plus x1 1. Now, let us go back to this slide. So, the value of x1 was 5.7929 plus 0.3934, that is 6.1863. Yes, 6.1863. Then x2 2 is V2 of 1 plus x2 1. The value previous iterate was 5.2574. So, I will have 5.2574 minus 0.1543, that is 5.1030. Here it is 31, okay, 31. And lastly, x3 of 2 is V3 of 1 plus x3 1, and the value of x3 is 3.065, and the value of V3 is minus 0.0158, that is 3.0492. Now, we have completed 2 iterations, and the exact solution for this problem is x1 is 6, x2 is 5, x3 is equal to 3. Now, the interesting observation that we would like to do here is that the convergence is so fast here. Look at this particular value R0. This is the error in satisfying our given equations, that is 0.5 1 minus 0.5. When we have gone to the first step, the error in satisfying the equations was 0.6716 minus 6.1. Now, the solution has now moved faster, and now the solution has come almost close to the exact solution in the second iteration. Now, if you find the error R2, you will find that this value is very, very small. Therefore, the convergence compared to the Gauss Seidel is much more faster. In fact, for this particular problem, if you try to take let us take about 3-4 decimal places accuracy, Gauss Seidel will require almost 100 iterations to get that accuracy, whereas you will find SOR requires much less, almost a factor of 10 or so less than the required number of iterations. So, that is why the successive over relaxation method is very fast compared to the other methods, but the only hitch here is that we have to find suitable value of omega which gives the fastest convergence. Now, we will discuss about how to obtain the omega optimal, and one observation that we should also make here is that when I gave this particular example, this I took an example which matches exactly our requirements. If I look at this and see its partition, we can apply the permutation matrix such that these are thrown to other way, and then we will be able to get the diagonal matrix here and a diagonal matrix here, or you could have another partition also and then try to attempt that particular way. However, as I said, it is not strictly necessary nowadays, we can use even if it is a symmetric matrix. Now, in order to do the analysis of this, even though I will not go deep into the how to obtain the omega optimum for successive over relaxation, but we would like to discuss how the Gauss Seidel or the Jacobi or SOR converges, and how do you define by a value that this is the rate of convergence of this particular method, and thereby we can compare the various methods that this is the convergence of this method, this is the convergence of the method. So, therefore, it is faster than the other methods. Now, to do that, I need little bit of background of your matrices again. Let us just revise what we have done earlier and little bit more of the some of the concepts or the properties of the matrices. One important property we will need is the norm of a matrix. So, let us define the norm of a matrix, which you might have already done in course, but just let us revise it. So, I would like to define what is known as norm of a matrix. If you given a matrix A, I will denote the norm of a matrix by this as the norm of a matrix. This is a positive real number. This is a positive real number. In a sense, it is a measure of a matrix. What is the measure? It will give the measure. So, it is in a sense actually we can call this as a measure of a matrix. Measure of a matrix. So, we can say the given a matrix, this is the norm of this matrix, given another matrix you can say norm of the matrix is this. So, we can compare them in terms of norms of the matrices. So, in a sense we can call it as a measure of a matrix. Now, if I have two matrices A and B, then norm of this is your triangular inequality holds here, that is norm of A plus norm of B. And if I take the product of two matrices, norm of A into B, this is also norm of A into norm of B. And if I have a complex any number multiplying, say a complex number C into A, norm will be where we are talking of a C, as C is a real or a complex number. C is a real or a complex number. Then this will be equal to magnitude of C into norm of A. This means that if C is a positive or a negative real number or C is complex, then this equality holds. Now, let us see what are the measures that we can give for this, what are the norms we can give. The first one norm is called the Euclidean norm. Euclidean norm. What is the Euclidean norm? We are talking of a general matrix, means real or complex matrix. Therefore, what I will do is I will take the magnitude of all the elements, square them, add up, and then whatever number that you get, take the square root of that. That will is called the Euclidean norm. This is in this, it is a sort of Euclidean norm. If you take the distances of points, it is nothing but the distance between the 2 points is the length is the measure, Euclidean norm. So, that is actually a representation of this in the matrices. So, this is nothing but I take magnitude of A I j, square them, summation over I is equal to j 1 to n, all of them, then I take the square root of this, and this is called the Euclidean norm. It is usually represented by f of A. So, it is a very simple thing that we just take the magnitudes of all the elements of the matrix, square them, sum them up, and then take the square root of that. Different norms are used in different circumstances. So, let us have another norm called the maximum norm. Maximum norm. The one definition of the maximum norm, norm of A, it is denoted by norm of A with a suffix as infinity. I take any row, take the absolute values of all the elements, sum them up. There will be n such row sums. So, I will take the largest of them, that is the maximum absolute row sum is a measure, and that is called the maximum norm. So, that is denoted by this. That means, this is maximal with respect to row I, summation with respect to k of all A I k, that is these are all the magnitudes of the elements, and this is maximum with respect to I, that is row, and I am summing up with respect to k. So, that is all the values in the row are added in magnitude, and that, and then I will maximize it with respect to all the rows, and then this will be the maximum norm. So, I can call this as maximum absolute row sum. If I can take maximum absolute row sum, I should be able to take maximum absolute column sum also. Therefore, that would also give me another measure which I would call under the maximum norm only, but with a different notation. The notation that is used is this, that is maximum with respect to k, summation with respect to I, a I k. So, now I am taking the maximum with respect to the column and I am now adding the rows. Therefore, this is the maximum absolute column sum. And the third norm that we need is the one that is we use very often, it is called the Hilbert norm, or it is also called spectral norm or spectral norm. More often we used it as a spectral norm. What we do here is, given a matrix A, I would find its conjugate transpose. We defined it as A star, that is your conjugate transpose. Then I form the matrix A star A, A star A. Then I will find the eigenvalues of A star A, find eigenvalues of A star A. We have defined the largest eigenvalue of a matrix as its spectral radius. So, I will find the largest eigenvalue of this. Therefore, I will take this as this. Let us call them as lambda I. Find eigenvalues of this, that is lambda I. The maximum eigenvalue is the spectral radius of this. Then the Hilbert norm says that I can define the norm as square root of spectral radius of A star A. That means I am finding the matrix A star A, find its eigenvalue, find its spectral radius, square root of that will be the Hilbert norm. If suppose A is symmetric, suppose A is symmetric, let us also take and real. Let us suppose A is symmetric and real. Then look at this definition, A star is conjugate transpose, it is a real, therefore it is same as this, symmetric, therefore A is equal to A transpose. That means A is equal to A star. Therefore, that means this is equal to A is equal to A star by definition, and whereas this spectral radius of A star A will become spectral radius of A square. A is equal to A star, therefore it will simply spectral radius of A square. Now we know that if lambda I is an eigenvalue of A, then lambda I square is the eigenvalue of A square. Therefore, spectral radius of A square will be spectral radius of A square of that. The eigenvalues of a to the power of m is lambda I to the power of m, if lambda is the eigenvalues of A. Therefore, in this case this spectral norm will be simply spectral radius of A, because square root of this. Therefore, if we have symmetric matrix and real, we are very happy because we can just find the eigenvalues of that matrix. The largest eigenvalue in magnitude will be simply the spectral norm. Now, all these norms that we have defined, they are all independent norms, the Euclidean norm or the maximum norm or the maximum absolute column sum norm or the Hilbert norm, all are independent definitions. Therefore, if you are given a matrix and if you want to find the norm, and if you find all of them, because since all are independent, you can take the smallest of them as a required norm, because the norm, what is the largest value of the norm if you want to say. Suppose say given a matrix A, what is the norm largest value of norm this matrix has got it. If you are finding the norm of all the 4, the smallest of that will be the required bound, that will be the giving the norm of that particular matrix. Okay, I think we will stop at this, we will take an example on this next time.